vesting interest. I will say once again, if it's meat and it is smoked, I want it in my mouth hole. That's I need. I don't care where it comes from. I want to eat the meat, right? So,
52 pounds. Let's go. Oh, let's go.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's getting away, and there's something about being by the water or out in the woods and away from it that is it's good for your soul. And
area, we'll try to target that fish. Or we can also do some drift fishing over this area. Put our baits, suspend them 3 to 4 foot off the bottom, and do a little bit of drift fishing through here. I use it a lot on the Ohio River. Do well there.
I trademarked my sweet ass.
No, I own sweet ass.
No, you do not own my sweet ass.
No.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, my God, you guys, look at the size of that muskie. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
Oh, are you kidding me, Eric? Come on now. Where's the love, brother? Oh, wait a minute. Ah! Oh, holy cow. My goodness, look at the length on this fish. Woo! Eric, you man.
Oh, yeah.
I said you're frying a cucumber is all you're doing.
Well,
deep fried
hold
pickles
up.
are awesome. I don't know how you guys are eating on
A
pickles.
cucumber is different than a pickle.
I really Vexus?
You didn't just say that, did you, Vexus?
Cucumber
What
is
do you
different
think a
than a
pickle
pickle.
is?
Is it not?
I think a pickle is.
Pickle is a pickle.
No, it's a cucumber.
No, cucumber is a cucumber.
Pickled cucumber, Vexus?
Yeah, it's a pickled cucumber.
Hold up. A pickled. No.
We're in that 30-ish. 30-ish. It's that 29, whatever.
Check that out. Check that out. Let's go. One more cast. One more cast.
Yeah, baby! He was so awesome. Look at that hog. Oh, yeah. Look at a hog, man. Look at that rock man.
Just move your hands below the camera and rub it real quick, and then.
Yeah, because that'll look good. We just
Move your hands below the camera
That's right.
and start
doing?
rubbing.
rubbing the fish. No, I ain't gonna do this. This is not gonna work.
Some
Vesting interest. I will say one. Good evening, everyone. Happy Sunday.
Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing?
Got to mute ourselves so I don't hear ourselves. Allow myself to introduce myself. What's up, everybody? This is Cass and Camo. It's your favorite show on Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Central. I got to find my notes. We had a little bit of a little switcheroo. We were going to be chatting with Wild Bill tonight, but something came up with his business, so we had to bring in one of our other guests that we had on our agenda and happened to be available tonight. So kind of worked out perfectly. But before we get into that, as always, the housekeeping items: follow us, subscribe to us, like and comment on YouTube, Cass and Camo TV on YouTube. For everyone watching on YouTube or listening on SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify, Cass and Camo on Twitch. We are live on Twitch, so we will be answering questions from people in our chat that is the live stream chat. So if it sounds confusing, we'll do our best to make sure that we call out the actual question and let you know that we're asking a question from our live chat. And if you want to be a part of the live chat, by all means, come on over on Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Cass and Camo on Twitch, live on Twitch. Last week, we had Andrew from Southside custom rods. Fun guest. It was a fun conversation. Eric, you've used. Oh, and I just called you Eric. I think we should just use our real names, to be honest. It's so confusing.
I'm fine. Go ahead.
Everybody, that's Eric. I'm Todd. If you didn't know that, now you know. I think most people knew. You've used more custom rods than I. I've used a total of, and then carry the one. I've used 0. So I appreciated the conversation with Andrew, especially for a saltwater fishing guy, which I know so little about, but the science of it all, to me was super interesting. The other news flash is it's 24 degrees where I'm at Fahrenheit, which means this is forming better. I drove by a couple lakes, and our guest is already ready to punch me because he makes his living not on the ice when there's no ice. But I'm excited because pretty soon we're gonna have some ice fishing and spearing to do, and I'm jacked up for it. I can't wait. And possibly a live cast and camo with Mr. Chief Fox and myself side by side. That might be happening in a few weeks. You never know. Or Pam's going to kick me out into the other room, which is very possible too. Who knows? Who knows? We'll figure it out. But that's exciting. Now, this week, we're going back to fishing because you might as well. We're losing fishing for most of the country other than the coast. We're going to talk channel cats. Channel cats. And when I say channel cats, I'm talking trophy channel cats. I'm talking you've never caught channel cats this big. And this guy is the master. He is the sensei of large trophy channel cats. And it's Brad Durick of Brad Durick Outdoors. Let's bring Brad in. Brad. What's up, Brad?
Hi, how you guys doing?
We're doing fantastic. Thanks for
11
thanks for
degrees,
the.
just so you know.
What's that?
It's 11 degrees, just so you know.
Oh, so you're a little chillier than we are down here in the Minneapolis area. But I think that's coming tomorrow night. I think our low is going to be about 5 degrees. So I'm excited. I'm so excited. I know you're not, but I am. All right.
How much snow do you got on? How much snow do you got on the ground up there, Brad?
Oh, quarter inch maybe.
Okay.
Nothing to talk about yet.
All
Well,
right.
he told me you're snowed in.
Well, he is.
I told you that. I said it was snowing when he called.
Yeah, I called him. He's like, "It's snowing." I'm like, "Well, it's not here. It's like it's beautiful here. 36 degrees here." Lovely.
Too funny. Yeah, I think that's about what we got over the course of the night too. Was about a half inch, quarter inch. Which in the weird part, and this is so off topic, but the weird part was it's stuck on the driveways and the roads, but not the grass and the roofs.
I think that's what we got going on right now too. I haven't been out today.
Strange. Usually it's the opposite. It gathers on the grass, but not on the roads because roads are still typically a little warmer than the rest of the ground. But I'm no meteorologist. I just look at the weather and frown. That's what I do. So let's jump right into these channel cats. The fun thing about this, Brad, and you probably don't even know this, Twitch fishing has been growing over the last 2 years. And a large part of the Twitch fishing community is carp and catfish. There's a lot of catfishing, ladies and gentlemen, in the Twitch world. So I think we're going to have a lot of people listening and watching that are going to be ears are perked. I've fished for catfish maybe once or twice. I think twice. I want to do it more because it has been a blast. It's been fun. I've caught 2 flatheads, the biggest being about 15 pounds. I may or may not have accidentally dropped it into the campfire slightly, just a little bit, the tail. That's a joke. I did no PETA, go away. I treat all fish with gentle love and respect. It was an accident. I promise it was an accident. But what I would love to do, so you're up in the Grand Forks area, and what I want to tell everybody in chat, we've got multiple commands. We've got exclamation point BDO, we've got exclamation point Cat America, and we've got exclamation point books. And we're going to hit on pretty much all of those topics, but keep in mind we have those commands out there. One of the cool things how Chief knows Brad is Brad was a guest on Catfishing America, everybody's favorite catfishing America. Everybody loves that song. So that's how these two got connected. And I've heard Chief's side of things, Brad. So I'm excited to hear your side of things as to how that trip went and how it changed your life. Because it was my understanding that it changed your life. So
in rapid waters.
That's right. So if anybody's curious, you can check out the episode that Brad is on Catfishing America. It's season 1, episode 12 on YouTube. Season 1, episode 12 on YouTube, Catfishing America. Or if you're in chat, exclamation point Cat America, it'll give you a link right to that show, and you can check out that episode that Brad was on. I've heard so much about it. I heard it was absolutely epic. Brad kind of rained on Chief's parade a little bit when we were talking earlier. Said that was a great day, but I've beaten it now.
Yeah,
so
that sucks. He wasn't supposed to ever beat that.
I should add that none of this gray hair was here because he had to remind me of that.
Yeah, as soon as I seen his face, I was like, what is that on your face, Brad? Because he was nice, clean cut.
Yeah, well,
I would love to hear from your perspective.
Some of us here in the North Country got to grow beards to stay warm when we fish.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Exactly. I agree. We can't shave it off like you and have your baby face like you did for the last 2 weeks. Trying to make yourself look younger. Doesn't work, just so you know.
Sorry.
So I would love to hear from your perspective, Brad, on that show. If you don't mind telling the story of when Eric came up with the crew and they went fishing with you. I've heard his side. I would love to hear your side and how that went and what the experience was like, if you don't mind.
Well, I'll even tell him the dirty little secret he probably doesn't even know. So I was contacted by the Chamber of Commerce because I was working with them for my real job at the time. And they were looking for 2 guides to come up here. And of course, right out of the gate, I told them that they needed to get with Kent Hollins, who was the original guide up here on the Red River, and still to this day a good friend of mine. And then we had another guide that started out, and let's just say some things happened between him and myself and Kent. And there was no way in hell he was going to get any publicity out of a TV crew coming into Grand Forks to shoot catfishing. So I was like, well, I'll do it. I'll take you. So I think Kent took them the first day, or day and a half.
Yeah.
And I was there behind the scenes, just, scouting spots or patterns, so to speak. And we all went out to lunch or dinner. And then day 2 was my day. And day 2, I don't think ever saw the airwaves. We knocked the hell out of them that day.
And I don't know why they didn't make the third show for that up there. They should.
We knocked the hell out of them on day 2. And I was just ecstatic with how it went from what I had got while they were shooting with Kent, just tooling around in the river looking for fish. And then the morning of day 3, he goes, let's go try the whitewater. Well, we have a riffle dam right here in town. It's a rocky mess. And to me, it's just a lure eater. Sure, let's go in there. What the hell? We're going to lunch in an hour. And we shot the whole episode in that hour. And we switched some gear and we came back and it didn't quite work right. And we found out what we were doing is our sinkers were too small in the morning. We didn't have heavy sinkers with. I'd gone and got some over lunch. Well, as soon as we put them out, we weren't catching fish anymore. So we put the light sinkers back on and threw them up. And we were basically trolling for fish utilizing the current. And it was a heck of a show. I mean, at that point, I had never done it.
And that's
what TV show ever, I think.
think that was so much fun in that whitewater because number one, you just don't have the weight of the fish. You got the current against you trying to bring that fish in. And I swear to God, me and Brad and Dawn got off that boat. My arms freaking hurt from catching fish. I don't think I've ever caught that many fish before in my life that quick. It
Like I
was
said,
just
we
crazy.
shot that whole episode in an hour and a half. So, I mean, when was the last time a show did that? That's although I will add with another crew, I stumbled onto a good bite and I knew it was there and we needed 6 minutes of content and we got it in 6 minutes. But I knew that bite was going to happen. So this one, I had no idea that was going to happen. I just figured we'd lose a few sinkers and go eat lunch.
Well, one of the things that's kind of neat about where Brad is, they have suckers up there that they can get many of for bait. I mean, I've never seen the availability of suckers that they can get up there where he lives.
I wish it was that good still.
Really? You guys
it's harder and harder every year.
Is that right? Wow.
Demand from anglers, aquatic invasive laws, things have really made it difficult. I spend a lot of my time on the phone ordering and collecting suckers. I have 3 commercial bait tanks now just to ensure that I have them.
Wow.
Yeah. That was amazing up there. And what's neat is that river from there up to the Canadian border. How many low-head dams do you think is on that river from
the one we fished under the Riffle Dam? Then there's one low head north that is now no longer there.
Okay.
That dam now looks like the one in Grand Forks.
Okay.
That was just replaced over 2023.
Okay.
And then that's it to the big Canadian one everybody sees on TV.
But they've got a lot of structure in that river bed. When you're going up them river, going up the river, the Red River, they have a lot of trees sunk in that river along the banks, and that makes some really good fishing the whole way up through that river system. It's actually beautiful up through there.
So I should add that we've had so much flooding the past decade that a lot of the trees are gone now. And ones that are there, everybody fishes. So I've actually had to teach myself to not fish wood piles just to stay on fresh fish and stay away from other people.
I was going to ask how, because, being somewhat local to you, I'm aware of the Red River and how often it floods. I have family up in that area. How does that affect the fishing when you're trying to guide? If are you out of the water at that point, or is that when fishing's good and is it just you have to go to places that are safer? How does that affect you and your business?
Well, we've had to learn to deal with high water that I never thought we would have to learn to deal with. But in the spring, you got to wait them out. Those bad floods, you got to wait them out. Plus, you're waiting for the water temps to come up. Occasionally, summer floods. Now we seem to be on this feast and famine thing where we flood really hard, really long, or we have no water and we run out. And I would much rather deal with a little flooding than no water. I learned that in 2021. But the flooding has changed things. It's not been as bad a flooding the past few years, but it's still bad. I mean, so I'll back up. 2021, we had virtually no winter. I had to shut down guiding 6 weeks early because I was damaging so much equipment and the fish were looking so bad. 2022, I was a full month late getting into the water because the flooding never stopped. So it's just up and down. Now, the way the forecasters are talking and the way things are kind of starting out, I'm expecting 2013 again, which was not exactly, or 2016 again, which was a low water year. It doesn't look good for winter at this point, but there's a lot of winter left, and anything can happen. So all I can do is speculate at this point.
So, Brad, what you're saying, so you really didn't get your start in guiding until we come up there, is what you're telling me?
Well, it's about half your fault.
Well, I was not aware of that, because when I talked to the city up there and they were planning for us to come up and then they come on as a sponsor for us, I would just assume, because they said, oh, we got 2 guides ready when you guys get here so they can show you around and get you out there. I just assumed that you had been a guide for a long time.
Like I said, Kent was the original guide up here, and I helped him get started. I helped with some of his marketing, and I was out there a lot. I still was fairly new to the game,
right?
But I was out there a lot. I knew how he fished, and I was learning a lot of things, how to do it. So, I jumped in the boat and took you guys, and everything worked out, and clearly you were none the wiser. But
yeah.
Fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
You don't even want to know. When I started this in 2008, I thought I knew how to fish. I didn't know anything. That was 8, 9, and 10 with some of the different flood situations and some of the weather situations we had was probably one of the biggest kick in the nuts anybody could ever have. But you're either going to make it or break it at that point.
Right.
And it took a lot of work. It took a lot of thought and record keeping and a lot of things to make it work. But I'm fairly confident in everything now.
You said you got all that out of the way, and now you're back where you pretty much, now I'm sure you know that river like the back of your hand up through there. So what is your main go-to, and when do the channel cat really start feeding up there? As soon as the water the ice breaks out, or is it a little bit until the water warms up a little bit?
Oh, I wait for it to warm up. We're so far north. Generally, when the ice breaks up, a flood is pushing it up and breaking it up. Right. So we got to wait that out too. Right. I usually wait until the water's leveling off. And the way spring works, it's generally about the same time it's leveling off, it's hitting 60 degrees. So as soon as you get that 3rd or 4th day of level water, it's hang on to your pants.
Right.
And then I ride them right through the whole year, right through the spawn, everything. I never shut down once I get going.
Right. Well, I think some of them fish up there, and of course it shows it on our TV show, some of the humps on their heads, the male versus the female, you can tell, especially in the spawning season, really easy. But you're still using suckers as your bait?
They're my go-to still. They're absolutely my comfort bait.
What else do you, if you can't get suckers up there, and I remember this, but I need you to talk, what do you go after next for bait?
We go try to catch goldeyes out of the river. The tournament guys, the best tournament guys around here live and die on the goldeye. It's just not my comfort bait. Right. And then, of course, later in the summer, we switch over to frog.
Right. Yeah. So the frog is kind of unique. How do you fish with the frog? Do you drift it, or are you set up?
Exactly the same. Nothing changes. It's just you put a frog on the hook. I actually hook them. They look almost like a frog bass bait. The way I've got them hooked, and then toss them down. And
right.
A little tip with those is we have a soft mud bottom, so I always make sure they're dead before they go on the hook.
Right.
2 reasons. The first reason, I don't like the way they look at me when I'm hooking them. And the second reason, in the soft mud, they'll burrow in and hide from the fish, which doesn't do anybody any good. So,
right. So
I have a dumb question. The few times that I've gone fishing for catfish, we were using bullheads, and I'm just gonna be very honest. I refuse to touch them. I'm scared of bullheads. I don't want to get hurt. I'm very fragile, Brad. I'm very fragile. My hands are like temples. Okay.
Dawn.
Yeah. So we were fishing for flatheads. Does bullheads not work for channels? Why not bullheads?
I like bullheads. technically in North Dakota, they're not a legal live bait fish. They're a little harder to come by over here. Because the only way we can use them is get them in the river and cut them, technically.
Right.
I've learned to not be scared of them. And if you think they're nasty, you ought to try those little stone cats or willow cats, because they'll tear your hands apart. My advice is just man up and deal with them.
No, I don't want to. I'll wear gloves.
Oh my God. I can't.
Brad's like, I'm never taking this some bitch fishing. Are you kidding me right
Did
now?
you see that on my face? Because that's what I was thinking.
Oh my God.
I don't know what it's just there. I don't know what it is, but bullheads scare me. I'll do any other bait. I have no problem with it.
Just because they have a little bit sharper fins on them. Is that your problem?
Yeah, just no. Okay. It's history for me. It was like we never caught bullheads. We never ever used bullheads, but I knew enough to know that they get you. So I've just never really been taught well. And as a 44-year-old man, 28-year-old man, it's a little embarrassing to say, I don't know how to handle this bullhead. It's a stupid bullhead.
What you're saying is you have no history.
Correct.
Not it is history. It's you have none.
Yes.
It's
the lack of
belly side.
Grab them by the head. Put
Yeah,
my hand over their head and my fingers
just-
behind those fins, and they can't get you that way.
See, that's what everybody says. But then I watch these crazy assholes that I go fishing with, and they've got 12 bullheads in a little minnow bucket, and they just reach in there with their hand. They're like, just go ahead and go grab a bullhead. And I'm like, I'm not sticking my hand inside there. That's a bowl of snakes.
I'd probably puss out on that one too.
Yeah, see? Good. Thank you, Brad. You made me feel so much better about myself.
But I'd get a net and fish one out by itself and then go after it.
Correct. Right. I'm good with that too.
With gloves.
No, I wouldn't need gloves. If I knew what I was doing, I wouldn't need gloves. That was more for, I know there's 7 people that just clipped it, and I'll never live it down. But what do you do?
Yeah.
So pre-show, post-show, how different is your approach to catching these trophy catfish? Did it change? How much did it change? I was told it changed your world completely.
Well, it changed my world because somebody kept calling me Captain Brad and I wasn't. And then somebody, I don't know that it made the show. I didn't have time to go back and watch it, but somebody said I was a guide, and I recall jumping in front of the camera going, "You can't say that. You can't say that," because I'm not.
That didn't make the show because we were told you guys were guides on the way up. We're traveling across country doing 28 states when your city called me on the phone and said, "We're ready for you." And I said, "Well, we're on our way to Texas right now. We'll be there next." So, and that's why I ended up. Did you not come and pick me up at the airport?
Wasn't me.
It wasn't me.
It was either you or the other gentleman that picked me up at the airport. Because
I just met you guys at the boat ramp in the morning when you were going to Kent.
Yeah, well, it must have been Kent because I flew home for a wedding. They flew me home from Dallas, Texas, back home, and then they flew me back up to your. And Dawn brought the truck up, my truck and boat. So, yeah.
So, anyway, you guys did that. Kent's business was getting fairly busy, and it's like, well, maybe we should think about this because we got to have our Coast Guard license up here because it's international waters.
Right.
So next thing you know, I'm in Coast Guard school in Duluth, Minnesota, and spring of 2008, here we were. Now, how did it change my fishing? Well, I don't know about that specific show, but nothing is the same anymore. A lot of it's that big kicking in the nuts I was talking about just from learning how to guide. I learned that having 5 or 6 good spots doesn't work when you're guiding. Things change, fish change.
Drastically too, don't they?
So I went from fishing 6 miles a river and probably 10 to 12 spots to I now consistently run about 26 miles a river. And last I checked my GPS, there was pushing 300 coordinates. and I don't mark wood piles. Not that I fish them very much, but I don't mark wood piles. So, and a lot of my coordinates will fish 2 or 3 different ways depending what the current's doing.
Is there a difference between your spring and your fall fishing? Like, so I know some of the answers to this, but I want for the people to hear. Do you fish more shallow in the spring or in the fall or in the middle of summer, or do you fish more deep? And do you fish the bends in the rivers? Because you guys got some beautiful bends up there where the water comes around and digs out the banks on the other side.
You know, the answer is yes and no. If we get a nice level spring with good water temperature, especially in the early part of it, I'm the shallowest water I can find. But then I'll start moving in because they'll start migrating upstream, which on our river, migrating means they're going south. I know that screws with most people, but when they start migrating, then it's just a matter of finding the current seam they want to be on. I really like the small, tiny holes mid-river or right off the edge that time of year. As the spawn hits and as the mid-river hits, then I start getting into more of the middle type stuff and the deeper stuff. But the big deep holes that we all learn to fish, the big outside cutout bends, I almost never fish any of that stuff.
Okay.
I like the softer holes. Softer is the wrong word. The shallower stuff, the more subtle stuff. I've basically made a career in learning current. Are they in the current or are they out of the current? Because you can fish the same spot depending what that current seam is going to do. And once you determine that, it's pretty much game on. So the answer is yes, and it changes day to day, weather front to weather front, basically.
Well, a lot of people don't know the Red River flows due north. Just so you guys know, it kind of flows backwards to
That's
way
why
you
I
would
said they migrate south, because it's flowing north.
Yeah. Yeah, that is one of the few rivers in the United States that do flow north, due north.
It's actually the only watershed that flows north in the U.S. Everything else in the U.S. is actually a tributary of something else.
True. I know that was super in depth. That was true. As long as we're talking about the river, can we talk a little bit about what the water is like in the river, kind of what the Red River is like, width, size, current, water type, clarity, things like that? Again, a lot of these answers we know, but I'd love to share with people that have never been up there.
You get to the upstream parts, which is south because the river runs north. So we'll just say Wahpeton to Fargo, a couple of cities you can look up on a map. It goes from 30 to 40 yards across. Maybe some spots get more shallow than others, but down around Fargo, it's full of wood down there still. And a hole down there is, maybe 10 foot total. So you'll be traveling in 6 foot, a big hole's 10. As you go north, like you get up to us around Grand Forks, we're looking about 100 yards wide. Above our dam, you'll always have 16 feet or more of water. There's a 41-foot hole out there. There's a 40-foot hole out there. My favorite holes, you're in, say, 13, 14 foot, and they'll drop to 17 or 18. Those are my favorites. You get north below the dam, well, it depends on the year. This fall, or when I quit fishing up there, when I started banging bottom, you would be running in a lot of 4 to 5 foot. A good hole was maybe 7 or 8, and then you would have to cross these flats where you're banging bottom. So I kind of abandoned that stretch. But that's kind of what you're looking at. By the time you get to the Canadian side, you're looking 400, about 300, 250, 300 yards across, but not much deeper. Water's chocolate milky brown. I don't know why. They say the Indians called it the Red River. I have yet to see any red in it. Good clarity is about 2 to 3 inches. This year we had no rain for the longest time. We were getting 18 inches of clarity. It was wild. You could actually see your catfish fighting before they surfaced.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That was incredible because there was you couldn't even see in that water when I was up there. It was just dark, the whole water. Cloudy, real cloudy. I think there's a lot of siltation that rolls that river all the time.
Always.
Yeah.
Definitely. Do we want to show some of these fish? I'm talking Brad up like he's the greatest channel cat fisherman of
you
all
might as well
time.
let somebody see them.
Yeah, we should probably prove it, right? That Brad knows what he's talking about. Let's see if we can. This is the first time ever on Cast and Camel. Let's see how good we can do this. Switch over to the next screen. Y'all have to just confirm with me that you still have audio. Once we get there, there we are. You still have audio? Somebody confirm that? I could probably confirm it. We're good? Okay.
We do.
All right, so now I have to, that's our beautiful, I love that logo, Brad. I freaking love it. It's awesome. Let's go picture number 1.
You have to tell me what you're looking at.
That is the blonde with the blue hat holding a massive channel catfish.
Yep.
That was from this summer, I think.
Oh, that was this summer. That's
So do you remember how big that
yeah, I was going to say,
was?
how big is that one?
I don't know. I'm going to jump into my email quick and I'll play along. I don't remember what I
I'll
sent
do
you.
my best by describing the individuals holding the fish.
Oh, let's look here.
Looks dark.
Yeah, all them fish.
Yeah, they're dark mostly.
Yeah. And I think
The
I was
lips.
saying that. I think I was saying that to you guys a couple weeks ago.
Yep, the blue hat, that was in July. That was actually a post-spawn fish.
Okay.
That was a slower day. I was getting a little bit frustrated. She was with her mom and her grandpa. And then the next day, that gal went home and her sister and brother-in-law came, and we just knocked the piss out of the fish.
That river
That
changed so much on feed.
Yeah, that's a beautiful one. All right, moving on to the next one. That's proof number 1. Here's proof number 2. This thing looks like a mix between a shark and a sturgeon and an eel. It's so dark.
Yeah.
This
Older
is
gentleman?
a gentleman with a wonderful veteran.
Let me tell you about that guy.
Okay.
That guy's having health issues. He called me out of the blue last year. It was one of the first trips of the year. That fish was 20.5 pounds. And that dude had to move from his little town to Fargo because he's having health issues because he was where they were dropping all the Agent Orange and napalm in Vietnam.
Oh,
I mean, in it.
Yeah.
In it. And he just wanted to catch a big cat, and he did it.
I would, yes. I think that fish is, what do they call it? I call them whiskers. What's the technical term?
Barbels. That was probably a top 3 fish of 2023.
Okay, so let me stop for a minute because I see him talking in the chat room. So chat is talking about blue cats and that. Brad does not have blue cats up there where he's at.
We do not. These are channel cats.
So these are going to be all channel cats. And what other fish species, and I was going to ask you earlier, what other fish species are in that Red River?
We have just about every northern fish you can imagine. We're known for the big channel cats, of course, but we got walleyes, saugers, northern pike, muskie, bullheads, stone cats, gold eyes, woon eyes. The list goes on and on.
Right. Okay. I just wanted to clear that up. Go ahead, Vexus.
It sounds like a James Bond movie with all those colorful eyes. I love this fish. Now, when I'm looking, I'm such a noob when it comes to catfish. When I'm looking at this fish that he's holding, the side looks like it's ripped to shreds. Is that from spawn?
It was just pre-spawn, just for travel. Just
They beat them, you got to imagine, they beat themselves up on rocks. They rub rocks all the time. All your catfish do that in pre-spawn. They're getting ready. They'll rub rocks. They'll go up against brush, and they can damage the hell out of it. If you ever seen one after a spawn, some of them look pretty wicked.
just sent you a picture. I would prefer you not to put on the internet, just so you can see it.
Now I'm too curious. I gotta look.
Well, you can look at it.
All right. Well, in the meantime, while I'm pulling that up, I'm gonna go to the next photo. This is somebody struggling, but holding another massive catfish, and you kind of just see the under of the mouth.
Got the orange shirt on.
Orange shirt guy.
Yep. That was from last year, 2022. And that was probably another 18 or 20 pounder. I just like the picture because the way the angle hit.
I'm looking at the picture you sent me. I wasn't expecting feet pics, but thank you very much. Just joking. That is a wonderful fish. It's a hog, but I won't show it per your request. I won't show it.
That's one of the better kept secrets.
Yeah, I can imagine. So. All right, next photo. This is a lovely lady with brunette holding another, looks like pre-spawn fish or spawn fish. It's all bloody.
Tan hat.
Tan hat, yep.
Okay, that was the biggest fish I've had in years. That was 27 pounds.
27-pound channel cat.
Gal's name is Sarah. She's from Iowa. Her and her brother started coming up with their dad when she was about 15. She just got married this summer. I think she's 23 or 24 now. And funny story with that one. It was her dad, and her now husband that day. And we're sitting in a spot I found 2 years ago, just this dinky little hole about the size of a boat. And we're not catching anything, and it's getting ready to leave. And she goes, "Hey, wait a minute. I got to pee. Everybody turn around." So I'm standing in the back of the boat, and I see the rod start taking off, and I knew it was her turn. And I go, "Sarah," and she goes, "What?" And I said, "You got your pants up yet?" "Why?" I said, "Because you're up." And just when I said that, the rod buckled, and that's the fish that came up.
Wow.
That's the largest catfish I've had in my boat since 2016.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know I broke my record with Brad. I got a 25-pounder up there, and that was amazing.
That is crazy. All right, so next bit of evidence. This is a young gentleman.
Red shirt.
Hat on backwards.
Oh, no. That kid is a little card. His grandfather flies him and his cousin, I think it is, up from Mississippi. He was 12 years old in that picture. Just a card, that kid.
You can almost see it in his face.
Yeah.
You know, like I can already tell I would love to be on a boat with that kid because he's probably going to crack you up the whole time.
Oh, he was hilarious. And they were back this year again, so we knew each other. So it was even more fun.
Oh, I bet. I would assume that was his biggest fish that he's ever caught.
Yeah. And this year's trip, he didn't even touch it.
That right?
That was truly a fish of a lifetime there.
That's awesome. That's what I love to see is somebody like that, a 12-year-old getting a trophy fish. That kid's gonna just love fishing the rest of his life, which is fantastic. All right, next picture. All right, so this is another young gentleman wearing a Shields t-shirt.
That's my kid.
That's your son. Okay.
That's my kid. He's no stranger to those. He's at 12 years old. He could cast the bait casters, net fish, probably one of the best netters around. He's been fishing Catfish League for 5 years already.
Wow.
So he's a seasoned veteran.
Oh, wow.
That's got to be another mid-20s fish that he's holding.
Look at the fish. Yeah, I think that one was 18 or 19.
Oh, okay. Looks bigger.
He doesn't get out with me that much, but we were post-flood last year with that long flood, and we had gone on a annual 4th of July trip, and I knew the fishing was picking up. So we bailed a day and a half early just so we could get out there and get a few of those on our own.
That's so awesome.
So he's going to take over Daddy's business?
Wants no part of it.
Really?
He wants no part
Isn't
of
that
it.
funny?
He doesn't like people, and he says the entertaining part of it is what he doesn't
Like
want to
him
do.
already. I like him already. I don't like people either. I'm
Oh,
joking. That's a joke. All right,
Instead, he
next picture.
says he's going to be a taxidermist.
Oh, there you go.
well, that'll be a good job for him. Yeah.
This is just the picture of a rod doubling over. I love these types
Yeah,
of
that's
pictures.
what a 25-pounder looks like on an ugly stick.
Yes, I was gonna bring the ugly stick up to say, is that? Do you have brands that you stick with as far as rods that you are just die hard because you trust it, or are you sponsored? So you're going to use who's sponsoring you? How does that work for you and your business?
Yes and yes. Ugly Stick.
Okay.
Ugly Stick has been a great sponsor now for about 3 years. And I mean, we all started out with them, or most of us started out with them. So
Absolutely.
it was kind of a full circle deal when a previous sponsor it was a business decision. And, you know, there stands a friend of mine that works for Pure Fishing with Ugly Stick going, we're ready for you. So that just worked great. And I mean, like I said, we all started with Ugly Stick, so it just came
Absolutely.
full circle.
Yeah.
And I have beat the tar out of them things, and they just keep on going.
And what is that setup that we're seeing bend like crazy?
That is a 7-foot Ugly Stick catfish special.
Is that
so heavy, medium heavy, or what's
It's a
the
medium heavy, but it's
okay.
more like a medium in my mind. And I like that rod because it's a little softer tip. So when you're dealing with smaller fish and smaller hits, you can still hook them up, but it's got the backbone for the big ones. So that's, I mean, obviously we ran the white rods until the catfish specials came out a couple years ago, and now we've switched over to the specials. The handles are a little bit nicer. And I mean, who doesn't love an orange rod paired with a black and orange reel and orange line?
All right.
You're crazy if you don't.
Brad, we have a question from one of the people in chat. Maximus from Alberta, Canada, is asking, do you or the people you take fishing ever keep their fish? And is all the fish catch and release?
So we have a regulation on the red here where the limit is 5 per person and only one can be over 24 inches. And since day one, I have made it none over 24 inches. So anything you're seeing in these pictures has gone back. Locals do not keep fish. We're all about the sport up here. And, you know, it's pretty tight regulations. Now, just a side note from that question, they've always told us through otolith testing, that's the ear bone, where they cut them and count the rings like a tree, that roughly a 20-pound channel cat is 20 years old.
Okay.
That said, over the last 10 years, University of Nebraska has been up here doing tag studies and some of the growth rates based on inches. And these inches are starting to tell us that these 20-pound fish are 30 to 40 years old.
Oh, is that right?
So if you're killing a 35-inch fish that's 20 or 21 pounds, you just don't make a new one if they truly are that old.
Right.
But there is, in all your catfish species, there is a time limit when they get so big they quit producing, or fertile. They cannot produce any more fertile eggs. So there is a time limit, and I don't know what that is on channel cat, but like flathead there is, blue cats there is, where they don't produce. They'll produce the eggs, and they'll lay the eggs, and the male will still go through, but none of them eggs hatch after they get so old. And but I don't know what it is on channel cat.
I don't necessarily know it either, but I can tell you this, through that tag study, these fish are getting caught over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, I can
When
imagine.
they're that big, I want them back in there because I want the next week's person to catch that fish and smile.
Oh
for the
yeah,
camera.
there ain't nothing better than that for someone to catch a 20, or I know it was exciting for me to catch that 25-pound channel cat. I never got to experience that. All my channels here are 8, 10 pounds at the max. And that's if I even catch one. We have more blues than we do channels here.
You want to see me really excited, get a tag twice. That gets me excited. And I don't care how big the fish is. That gets me excited.
Right.
We had one this fall in early September. My customer caught it. I think it was like 26, 27 inches. So not a monster by any means. And I sent it into University of Nebraska. And we were doing a veterans event for Fishing for Life out of the Minneapolis area. And the boat captained by James Linder, formerly of In Fisherman, now with Linder Media, caught that fish in the same spot. And my outdoor writer friend from the Grand Forks Herald was doing a story on the event and in that boat, and he called it in. Well, he knows the same guy at Nebraska that I know. So, of course, they told him that I caught it 2 weeks ago. So they're on the phone with me right away while we're guiding this same event.
Of course.
And that was exciting to me. That's what gets me going.
Most definitely. I did pull up the next picture. It's another lovely lady, blonde with no hat, holding yet another massive fish.
That's my wife.
That's
that
your
was the
wife.
Same day as the kids' picture. Probably within the hour of it, actually.
You're kidding.
I think
wow.
That's your logo there on her shirt, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
No, that's Catfish Conference t-shirt. I think.
That's a Catfish.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a different.
Okay.
Pull it up. Yeah,
Good
that's
for her.
Catfish
How many of those types of caliber of fish has she caught?
Well, she goes about once every 2 years. She's usually good for sticking a 20 on the kid because it makes him mad. So she's been Selkirk too. She's probably caught 15 to 20 over 20 in the last 2 decades.
Amazing.
Awesome. That is awesome.
I wish you guys could all experience that Red River just once. If you ever get a chance to at least experience that, you need to go up there and give Brad a call when you get there, or way before you get there, so he can get you scheduled in. He's an amazing person.
All 30 to 60 days before you get here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I pulled the last picture up. I think this is you. Is it you?
Oh, yeah, I threw a press picture in there.
Okay. It's no offense to any of the other pictures. This is my favorite picture.
It is. That's a beautiful
yellowish colored fish.
Yeah. And the face, the face just looks, the whole fish just looks amazing. It almost reminds me of a Wells catfish. It's that
was
freaking
caught
big.
by a young gal from Fargo in 2021, and those yellow colored fish are so rare in that size that as soon as we got done taking her picture, I put it in the net, dipped it back in the water, and handed my phone to somebody and said, "I need a press photo out of this one."
Yeah. Is that what they? No, again, I'm super ignorant, so if I use the wrong terminology, I just throw words out that I've heard other people use. Is that what a blonde would be considered?
I've never used that term. Just
okay.
A yellowish color.
There works too.
Nothing special. I mean, that's my favorite color fish, and they typically don't get that big. I've caught maybe 3 of them that size in all my years out there.
It's just more like a golden channel cat.
Usually they're smaller. Usually they're under 25 inches in that color. It's very rare to get them big.
That's awesome. That's a great looking fish.
Yeah.
And we'll just say right now, it's a very rare blonde piebald channel catfish.
Works for
and you hold
me.
the world record. Yep, you hold the world record. It's awesome.
Yeah, something like that.
So those are the pictures. We're gonna go back to our other scene.
And I have about 8,000 more just like it.
Oh, I imagine we could fill 3 shows just looking at big old catfish pictures. I'm certain of it. All right, let's talk books. Not only are you the world champion of blonde piebald channel catfish, a massive trophy channel catfish guide expert, you're also an author. What inspired you to write a book? Multiple books, but let's start with just any book. What was the inspiration for you to write a book?
Well, money. And it didn't make me rich.
It's fair.
No,
straight up.
So I told you when I started guiding, I learned that I didn't know much. And 2010 in particular, we had a situation where the water would go up 5 feet and down 5 feet, and up 5 feet and down 5 feet. It was just constant. You would get stable water 2 or 3 days out of every 3 weeks, roughly. And I'd catch fish like crazy in that stable water. And it's like, okay, I know spots. I need to learn. And now keep in mind, we would shut down before it hit flood stage even back then, because we didn't know. And that was happening, and the fishing was so inconsistent, and the guide service is getting busier. Well, it's one of those things where either I figure this out or I'm going to have a quick exit from the business, because I'm not going to take people's money and be lost all the time.
Right.
So I was stumbling through the internet looking for answers, something, anything. And I figured out what Doug Stange's email address was at In Fisherman, and I figured he wrote the book. He wrote the Bible with catfish fever, which still to this day I tell people starting out, read it, go fish for a year, and read it again. You'll be stunned at the results. So okay, well, this should be his email address, and I sent him an email, and I said, so this is the situation I'm running into. You wrote the book. What do you got for me? And he writes, well, we never really looked into it that technical. Sorry, I can't help. Well, that didn't help. And there really was nothing about it anywhere on the internet. And I mean, to this day, YouTube doesn't have it, if you can believe it. So fortunately for me, a guy who can't balance his own checkbook, I had been writing down my catches every day on a calendar from 2007 when those guys showed up. Every day I fished. I could go back to 2008, my first year, and tell you what we caught and who I fished with. So I started talking to a biologist, and we started figuring catch records, and then we started matching them with what the water was doing, rising, falling, temperature, rising, falling, and kept taking all of those different variables. And then I just started trying things. I mean, the biggest eye-opening moment was the water was up. I'm getting my butt kicked with a return customer. We're 3 hours in and have 0 fish. And I'm like, there's one little bush over there on the bank, and I got nothing else. I'm going to fish that one little bush. So we went over there, casted out the lines, and just started clobbering fish. And I mean, like kind of what Eric saw in the dam, clobbering them. Turns out the tree wasn't even in the water. It was just hanging over the water. But what was happening is the cottonwoods were dropping cotton down, and the water was going faster on one side of the seam than the other side of the seam. And I figured out that those fish were congregated about a foot from the main current because I could see the cotton difference. And then I really started playing with that patterning and matching it in with stuff. And now all of a sudden I got pages and pages and pages and pages of data on that stuff. And then in September of 2011, I got my one and only skunk well guiding, which I'm still hurting over. And the water was fast cooling. So I started playing with that. Next thing you know, I've got all these pages of stuff. Okay, I can write a 1,500 word article, and I can give it to a magazine. I can put it on the internet for free, or I can keep going for another year. Anyway, all these articles ended up being chapters. And I put it all into one place and figured out that you could go to Amazon and make a book out of it.
Oh, so you published it yourself, is what you're saying. You did everything. Oh, that's awesome. So the first book was, if I'm going off of memory, 2013.
Yep.
And that book was Cracking the Channel Catfish Code. Correct.
All of that research put together.
I'm not a reader, but you have intrigued me to read that.
So what I tell people is, if you're new to this, which you've explained that you are, try to find Catfish Fever first.
Do you have an audio book yet, Brett?
What?
Do you have the audio book yet?
No.
See, that could work good for Vexus here.
Yeah. I'm more of a podcast listener. But the good news, Brad, is I think Eric is free for any voiceover that you may need or want for your audiobooks. So I'm sure, just contact me. I'm his agent. We'll work something out.
Well, it won't be me because I have a face for radio and a voice for the newspaper. So that won't be me.
You can always ask Bobby to do it.
I mean, I barely passed English class.
Right. Yeah,
But
same.
no, that worked out good. And I mean, I'm really proud of a lot of the research that's in there. And I thought my current seam stuff, my lateral movement stuff would get plagiarized really fast. And here we are, 10 years later, and it hasn't been.
Right.
But I hear all the time that people figured that out and their catch rates went through the roof.
All right.
And I've fine-tuned it a lot since then. I mean, that was just scratching the surface as to how it works. And I mean, that has caught me a lot of fish.
I like catching fish. So what about the second book? The second book
The second book was
fuzzy.
an unemployed fishing guide in the winter with nothing to do.
Okay, the second book is called Advanced Catfishing Made Easy.
I made a pick-your-own-adventure book out of the first one.
Oh.
So that one, you open it. I mean, it's on Kindle, but it doesn't fit right. But if you actually have the hard copy book, you can go in and what's my water temp doing? Okay, do this. And it gives you like 2 or 3 paragraphs of patterns to look at in each scenario. Okay. And it's basically what goes through my head every day. What's changing, what's not changing, what variables, where should I be looking? So it's really short. It's not meant to be read as a book. It's meant to be, this is what's going on today. Skip to this page, read it. Right. Okay, let's try that.
Is most of your books on boating, fishing?
Yes.
That's what.
But a lot of it with just a little bit of thought can go back to shore.
Right.
I know it's a little more difficult for people who aren't there, but you can read water from shore. You can. You're just a lot less mobile.
Right.
Yep. That's great. And you have a third one coming.
Well,
I heard that at the beginning. You're gonna.
Yeah, you heard me say it's been on my laptop for about 3 years, and that's where it's been for about 3 years.
So it's coming out in the present.
I got about 350 pages worth ready to go.
Eesh.
It just needs to be gone through, edited, and then it needs to have its little situational whatever put with it.
Right.
And that's a beginner book. That is I mean, probably the first 30 pages is how to rig up a rod. Just updated stuff, how to rig up a rod. This is
and that's I think that's a brilliant move because I fashion it to when I went out with the fellas that I went out with for catfish, and I almost felt dumb. Like I felt like just like I've never fished in my life. They're talking about these things and this thing, and you got to put that on. And I'm going, I don't have any of that stuff. So I felt lost with not really knowing how to set up. So I think it's a brilliant move to get down to that level for beginners.
If it ever comes to fruition, I'll tell you right now, it's going to get panned bigger than hell because it's stuff that's been written before. It's stuff I can get on YouTube, but it's my take on all of it. And, is it right? I don't know. It's how I do it. Right. And I keep a pretty simple situation. I mean, the gear the setup that I used with Eric, it might have changed, to a different rod company or different, same line. It might have changed a little bit of the gear, but the basic setup is still absolutely identical.
Right.
Interesting. So, and I know we've established at the beginning, you're not a fan of the ice fishing. Have you done channel catfishing through the ice?
I have not. We should do it here, but it's like next to impossible to get the fish. And with my schedule, I don't want to be on moving water by myself with big cut banks by me.
Right.
If I could figure out how to consistently catch these fish through the ice, I'd be a millionaire. But you're dealing with moving water, and in my case, you're dealing with steep cut banks and fishing alone a lot of the time, and I don't like that.
Sounds like
That
we need to
said,
put
I
our
just
heads
like
together.
giving ice fisher people grief because it's not my favorite.
Yeah.
Do you have a lot of accidents up there with people falling through on that Red River?
No, because everyone was taught to be deathly afraid of it.
Oh, okay. All right.
But, I'm not necessarily afraid of it. You put your life jacket on, you take your rope, you take your bar, you check your ice because no ice is ever fully safe. And you do it, you be religious about safety as best as you can.
Right.
But when you've got 20-foot cut banks on both sides of you and moving water, especially if you need to transport in because with a snowmobile or something, that's where you're going to run into issues. And I just don't want to be there without someone else for their sake or mine.
I know when I was there, it seemed like that current was running anywhere between 4 and 7 mile an hour most of the time.
Yeah, but the river's a lot lower now in the fall and winter.
Right. And I would feel unsafe with that river completely.
I will ice fish it. That's not a problem. It's just I won't go where I think the cats are going to be.
Right.
Right.
Because you're venturing out into no man's land.
Right. Yeah.
That makes sense. So what was the biggest catfish you've caught on a guided trip? Or not you caught, but your boat. What's the biggest fish caught?
I've had a 28 verified on a guide trip, a handful of 27s. I was telling you guys I wasn't guiding. I was just with my buddies. And we had one that should have been in the low 30s, but we didn't have a scale, so we'll never know.
That sounds like a fishing trip I would have went on. You always forget something, and that's the time that you're going to need it.
My friend that was with me when I caught it, both of us have broken the 30 mark up on the Canadian side. And both of us agreed that it was every bit as big as what we've caught up there. But
I'm assuming you're not allowed to guide or take your boat when you have a guide going. You can't cross the border, can you? Are you licensed? I'm assuming you're licensed in Minnesota and North Dakota, but you can't cross the border water.
You have to have a whole different ball game of outfitter up there. I would need to own, basically how it is now, I would need to own a resort to get a permit to guide.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, they've cut it off because there's so many guides up there.
Mm-hmm.
So about the only way to get one would be or buy a resort. But I got enough to do. I don't need to go up there.
Yeah, I don't know. It sounds like we've got business ideas coming out of this. We've got resort for Canada guiding. We've got figuring out how to ice fish properly and safely for the big boys. I think we could put our heads together and figure something out here.
Well, the Canada thing has come across a lot. And if it were 20 years ago, I would be pursuing it a lot harder than I am. Even one up in the Drayton stretch, which is 50 miles north of us. If I was 20 years younger, knowing what I know, if I was 20 years younger and know what I know now, I would be a bait tycoon.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd be raising suckers and bait and selling bait. Screw guiding. I'll be selling bait.
Yeah. I imagine that would be a huge, huge industry up there to have bait and be able to supply the fishermen with bait.
To start a resort and a fresh guide service and do it all at the same time, that's a young man's sport.
Mm-hmm.
I would.
Well, you got to remember, Eric. We can't catch our bait up here, so we rely on.
Oh, so you're not allowed to use cast nets or? Oh, wow.
Well, that's not technically all. You can use cast nets on specific bodies of water, specific times of the year.
True, but for the most part, anglers in Minnesota, at least, I can't speak to North Dakota, but in Minnesota, you're relying heavily on bait shops. And if they're out of leeches, they're out of leeches. If they're out of minnows, they're out of minnows. You don't have bait.
It's true.
That would. So, Brad, what do you do with your cut bait? Do you freeze any of your bait to use later on for cut bait?
I try to avoid the freezer as much as possible.
Well, I do too, but sometimes you're stuck with having to do that.
Generally, in the spring, if we get higher water, I've got guys that like to archery fish, and they go get me suckers and stuff, and I get those in the freezer.
Okay.
And then we go from there. Like I said, I'm rigged up with bait tanks. I can buy big quantities if I get it. I've got a real good relationship with the one shop that I use, where they actually will call ahead and get my order when they find fish. So
Where's your fish farms from that you buy from? Are they close?
we have to import all our suckers from Minnesota, so that adds a whole nother element of difficulty.
Okay.
So when they have stock, the bait shop guy will call me and ask what I need. And then they do that because they know I can buy a bait shop out in one swath.
Right.
So they'll bring a bait shop full plus what I want.
Right.
And that's been how I've been surviving. I have the capability to store fish for almost 2 months.
Wow. Neat.
That's not bad.
It's a pain in the ass, but it's what you got to do.
Yeah. Right.
And
Yep.
I don't use
Agreed.
live bait, if you can believe it. Ever.
Oh, I know. I figured that.
No, I mean, I go out to the tank and kill them the day before I fish with them.
Right. Yeah. I know when I was up, you would rather fish with cut bait than you would live.
Right. But I go actually cut it. I go actually kill it and put it on ice and then use it 24 to 48 hours later. I've even gotten to that point.
So why?
Well, let me tell you. It was an accident that I found this out. But when you're paying $2 for a sucker and you're going through 12 to 20 a day, if some are floating in your tank in the morning, you're not going to throw them in the garbage when you're just going to kill them anyways. So I would put those in a bag, throw them in a cooler, grab my bait for the day. And about noon, I would usually run out of the previous day's floaters. And then I'd start cutting the fresh, and I'd always see a downturn. Well, I mean, typically fishing slows down about 1 PM to be expected. Well, the bait shop had a big shipment coming in, and it was coming in late, so I couldn't get it and tank it. And I was going to pick it up in the morning. And I showed up, and they said somebody didn't get a valve opened or closed or something different, and they killed the entire bait stores full of bait. And there we have no live bait. So I took as much as I knew I could store on ice, which was, about 5 or 6 days worth. And I was just using that, and that bite never fell off. And what I figured out was, especially in warmer water, when you cut a live minnow, the vessels are still open. So when it hits that warm water, the blood goes right out of the vessels. So by killing it the night before, the blood actually gets soaked into the meat. So when you cut it, it's held in the meat a little tighter. It gives you a longer holding scent trail. And that's what was going on with those dead fish that I was taking out of the tank.
Interesting.
And that has made a big difference because we're not getting those big midday drop-offs now.
Wow. Look
Likewise, the water temp gets to about 82 or 83 some years. Then you're taking them out of the tank and throwing them in the freezer the night before. So you're sending little chunks of sucker sickle down to try to keep that scent trail alive longer.
Doesn't love sucker sickle.
So that's my dissertation on bait.
My favorite part of our conversation was right now. When you said I kill him, I'm like, wait, what? I thought we've been talking about live bait this whole time, but not. I had no idea.
Everything's cut into chunks, usually about 1 inch square.
Okay. Interesting. Do you guide for other things other than catfish?
I don't.
Just catfish.
Just catfish.
But I
Fish for other things?
I was going to do winter pike
musky
fishing
fishing.
out at Devil's Lake. I'm just not equipped for it, and I don't want to put the investment in for it. And frankly, I'm just not that good of an ice fisherman to bother with the rest of it.
Fair.
Do you
At that
walleye
point, you're
fish?
taking people's money.
Do you not walleye fish anymore?
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say, I thought you walleye fished and you musky fished a little bit.
Walleye fishing to me has gotten to be what I fish for, because God knows it isn't catfish anymore.
Right.
Well, how can it be? I mean, you've dotted every T and crossed every I for
I'm a
catfishing.
hell of a netter. I just never catch fish.
There you go. There's something to be said for that too. Everybody needs a Robin to their Batman.
Right.
I've seen
Everyone,
plenty of people lose trophy fish by somebody stabbing the net at the fish.
Well, as a tournament director, I get that story every year, all the time, 2 or 3 times every tournament.
Are you running these tournaments, or are you just participating in them?
I run 3. I suck at tournament fishing. Those who can't do teach, right?
Right.
you got to
So-
understand when you're in a tournament, it's a whole different ball game because then the pressure's on you. And I hate fishing tournaments. I used to fish the King Cat Cabela's Trail all the time, and they'd have us come when we was doing the TV show and show up and fish them. And then when your pressure's put on you, all you're doing is doing everything wrong. You're not in your relaxed mode the way we catch fish. And when you got pressure put on you, you fish a whole different way.
But I would assume that pressure is felt when you're guiding.
Well, that's the funny part of it is I'm always racing the clock. I mean, that's just part of the game. But for whatever reason on tournament day, and I figured it out a few years ago, I'm so used to being out there alone that when I get my best friends around me, and I'm so into spot rotations and things that when I get people around me, I lose it.
Yeah.
I mean, if I see somebody fishing a spot that I've been saving, to me, in my mind, that spot is ruined.
Yeah.
They caught anything or not.
Yeah.
I mean, I am so into spot rotation that plays with my head. And then when you do what I do, you show up at a tournament, everybody's like, oh, the pros here. So, I mean, the only safe place to be is like 3rd through 6th. Because if you get your ass kicked, you never hear about it. And if you win, well, you should win.
I know that feeling. I've been giving Eric a lot of shit for his deer hunting. It's like, yeah, of course you're gonna shoot 6 deer. All you have to do is walk down to your blind and walk up to your feeder and just wait for 15 minutes.
Pretty much.
Yeah, you should. Yeah.
You
That's
know,
what I've been
tournament
saying.
directing, I just kind of fell into that. It wasn't necessarily anything I wanted to do. And we changed the rules on a tournament or from a different tournament and came up with a different concept, and it's been very popular, and it's just fell into place. And then that one took off, and then the Drayton Chamber of Commerce, 50 miles north of me, they ran a tournament, and they had some, we'll just put it at possible cheating issues. And they called, so now I go in and run theirs for them. And we changed a few rules and made that a $10,000 guaranteed payout, and that one's gotten huge. And then just for my spare time, we started one down in Moorhead. And I've been trying to get out of that one, but it just keeps growing. And now we got good sponsorship for it. So, you know, like I said, it's never really meant to be, but it just kind of happened. And it's a good place. I mean, I really like being around everybody and not having a dog in the fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I probably would prefer exactly what you're doing. I'd prefer the administrative part of it than the fishing. So do you, when you have people out on your boat that are paying you good money to catch big fish, that would give me such anxiety that just second nature to you now, I suppose.
Yeah, well, I mean, gets stressful, but I mean, I got a book because I got skunked once. I mean, that was really what pushed me over the edge to do a lot of the research. Right. And fortunately, that guy liked me and came back in the next year, and we kicked ass and been with me ever since. But, you know, that really pushed it over. And this past year was challenging for me because we didn't have very many big fish this last year. The flood was no big deal, but then we got really hot, then we got normal, then we got dry, and for whatever reason, there just wasn't as many big fish around. So we were getting our numbers, but we weren't getting the size that I'm accustomed to. And I was just an absolute wreck. And people are like, that was a lot of fun. And the hardest ones were the ones that I've had on just kick-ass bites before coming back. And it just finally got to be, this isn't going to be what you're used to. It is what it is. And, you know, the year was great. The numbers were there. The size was down. Everybody had fun. Only had one complaint. And that guy shouldn't have complained. If he would have listened to me, he would have caught his big fish. And once I realized that people were there to have fun and just roll with it, and if you get a couple big ones, great, you succeeded. I mean, it was a good year. So, but I'm used to racing the clock. Some days are better than others, but I mean, for the most part, we get our fish and do it all over again.
If I would write a book every time I get skunked, I'd have more books than Stephen King by like 10% or like 10 times for sure.
All right, Brad, we got a question in chat from Big Anthony. He is wanting to know what it costs to have you guide for one day.
I'm just going to throw out the main one. It's 8 hours of fishing up to 3 people. It's $550. All you need to have is a North Dakota or Minnesota fishing license, whatever you want to eat and drink in the boat, rain gear if it looks like you need it.
So I already know this, but I can come up there with a Minnesota license or a North Dakota license because that river separates the two states, correct?
And it doesn't matter what side of the river we launch on.
Okay, so my next question is, which state is cheaper for a non-resident 1 or 7 day? I don't know what your tags are anymore.
If you're here for 1 day, you want Minnesota. If you're here for 2, you want North Dakota.
Okay. I thought there was a difference, and I couldn't remember, but
because Minnesota goes 1 day or 10 days, and North Dakota goes 3 days or season.
Right. Yeah.
Or you just get the full year because it's not that much more, and just expect to come up and go out fishing with me.
I'm saying that because I'm talking about someone from neither state.
Yeah. Right.
Now, there is a couple other technical things that I've never run into. Technically, a Minnesota resident needs a Minnesota license.
Okay. So if I come up for 2 days, book 2 days with you, is there a difference in the price, or is it still the same? $550?
Still the same price.
Okay. All right. Just checking. Use code Joker for 69% off. There we go, Bess. Yeah. Thank you.
Our newest sponsor.
That's right, our newest sponsor.
Yeah, no, I'm in a good place now because I'm full. So, you gotta make hay when the sun shines. That's the bottom line.
We definitely want to book you 60 days out, is what you're saying.
For the most part, I mean, especially that last part of May, first part of June, later July and August, those are the first times that go.
Do you remember when we were there? What month?
July, I think.
Yeah, it was. It was right after July 4th weekend. I think it was the following week after July 4th.
Something like that, yep. It's in the book. I could go get the book out and tell you exactly.
Yeah.
Curious to know, how much does Eric owe you for all of the anchors that you've lost? Have you kept track? Is that a chapter in your book? How much he owes you for all of the anchors you've lost?
Believe it or not, I've only ever lost one, and it wasn't in the river.
Oh, there we go.
You told me tonight you lost a whole shitload of anchors up there.
Oh, I didn't want to lose a whole bunch of them. That's why I didn't want to go there. Well, I use a Cat River anchor with that breakaway system, so I mean, I can get her hung up pretty hard, and I can usually still get it back.
Yeah. So, do you use that a lot of the where you pull up on the ball, the anchor, where you?
I have it, but it's more of a pain for me to use it than it's not.
Right.
With the Cat River anchor, it only weighs 20 pounds. So you just if you're in the faster water, you just drive up on it, get it vertical.
Yeah,
and
he's got one of them anchors that I was showing you, Texas. Where?
Yep.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Awesome. What have we missed? We got. I'm gonna drop all your links again. We got BDO. That's Brad's website. Cat America is the episode that Brad was on. And the books. If you guys like fishing catfish, and I know a lot of you guys do, and girls and ladies, check out these books. They sound like look. I'm a sucker for research, and if you've done the research and you've kept track of things, I trust that a whole hell of a lot more than just picking up in fishermen and oh, there's a catfish article. They sound phenomenal. I'm going to get them for sure. And I'm not even a reader, but I want to read up on it.
Well, like I said, if you can find a catfish fever, it'll all make more sense. I kind of wrote it to be the next chapter to catfish, you know. And I got to sit down with Doug Stange at In Fisherman, at the offices of In Fisherman when I was working on it, and spend an afternoon with him, listening to the history and the stories and, you know, where all that came from. And that, you know, that was a really cool day. And, you know, I've been fortunate. I, you know, consider Keith Sutton, who wrote a lot of the other catfish books, a friend, and I can email and talk to him whenever I want. So, you know, it's pretty fun to be able to have people in your corner that you can pick up and visit with about stuff like that.
Right, exactly.
Most definitely. Eric, anything from you? Do you have anything more?
No, not really. I just know that I'm going to tell you guys, I've fished with this gentleman. He's a blast to hang out with and fish and eat with, especially. And don't forget, when you go up and see him, go to Widman's Chocolate.
Got to get your chippers.
I need some of this chocolate in my life.
They got like the best chocolate place in the world.
It's unbelievable. It's thank God it's just out of my way enough I don't go over there.
Oh my
That's the
God.
key.
I could not live there. I'd be over there trying to get it.
Definitely the key.
So if you want some more fun, if I might promote my podcast for a second.
I forgot I was going to ask you about that. Please do.
We're just getting ready to start recording season 4. And if you go to the Red River Catfish page, which I believe they've put the links up on, there is a podcast button and it's got the first 3 seasons for replay. Sometimes we talk to various Minnesota ice fishers. We've had some real heavy hitters in catfish and catfish media, the DNR. We get into all kinds of different catfish related stuff. Half Brothers Brewing in town here was our sponsor. Maybe will be our sponsor again. We're still working on that. So we have beer sampling. We had a beer cast last year where they came into the studio and we just sat and sampled beer for 2 hours.
Sounds awful.
That was that was fun. But all that's there. Every show's a little unique where I dig in and visit with different aspects and try to teach a couple things. And then, like I said, here in a few weeks, we got season 4 kicking off. And we've already got 6 or 7 really cool guests coming on. So that's what I do in the winter to try to stay relevant.
I hope all of your guests show up. But yeah. I appreciate you being willing to jump on last minute today.
God, yes.
It saved us from having to talk to Eric a lot. And that's
well, I'm just surprised when he calls because I hadn't talked to him in 15 years and he just randomly called me last summer.
Yeah, I did.
Right. You did call him, didn't you?
I just, you know, the thing of it is when you go out on a show like this and you go on the road and then you get busy with life, you just don't get back. And then you start, when you get older, you start thinking of, are these people still doing this? Are they out fishing? Or they quit fishing? What are they doing now? So you kind of reach out because we all had a blast when we was up there and we got along so great, all of us, that, you know, you reach back out to people.
Well, like we were talking before, you know, a lot of the folks of that season are out of the business now.
Oh, they are. They are. And that's what makes it hard because when we first started this podcast, I thought, oh, well, this is going to be easy. I can just go grab our 30, 40 sponsors that we had and people I fished with that were guides and did this stuff. We got all kind of areas and targets that we can go to. Then you start calling them and they answer the phone. They say, no, I'm a truck driver now. Me and the wife got divorced. And, you know, you don't know. Everything changes, especially in 15 years. You know,
yeah, I was not even a rookie yet when you guys fished with me. And, you know, I'm a seasoned veteran now and social media has changed everything. I mean, that wasn't even a thing when you were here.
No, hell no. I mean, we didn't have these things stuck up our butts either. when we were up there.
Pardon?
Yeah, social media has changed everything. I mean, that's one of the things I've been writing and talking about a lot is how social media has changed fishing.
Right.
And what it's done is it's made these incredibly intelligent anglers and a bunch of morons.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, that's the truth of it. I can't believe how people just sit and watch stuff and then expect you to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, I got that in the guide boat a couple times this year. Well, I watch so-and-so on YouTube. Why don't you do that? Well, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
For me, anyway, it doesn't. I'm not saying it doesn't for them, but I mean, to the other end, I make fun of, that side of it, but some of these young guys are just unbelievable fishermen nowadays because of it.
Right. Well, I can tell you one thing. Traveling 28 states fishing, every place was different when we did the TV shows. Every place was a different caliber of fishing, and you got to be versatile. If you're going to travel and fish, you got to change up and do things that are going to work. And you better not go there and do the same thing you did with Brad, because I guarantee you it's not going to work the same there. It's different every place you go. And that was one thing that we had to do right away. And that's why I used to love the muskie fish, walleye, lake trout fish, salmon fish, because everything was different. And you got to be versatile when you go fishing to different places.
When I wrote these books, I tried to keep it universal.
Right.
I tried to keep it to a fish is a fish, a catfish is a catfish, and a river's a river.
Yeah.
And that stuff holds true. It's just you got to take the variables, the traffic, the bait. The big one in the channel cat world that I did not touch much on is when you get down south where there's blues and flatheads, the channel cats typically don't get as big because they can't win the real estate battle.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons we have the channel cats we have, is because they win the real estate battle here.
And I think you have a lot of soft fish there, like I was talking about the suckers. Them channel cats. You guys got suckers up there that are giant in that river. And them things eat one of them, they gain a pound.
True.
It's just amazing. People don't understand what that river system has in it for bait. And I just didn't have that opportunity where I live here in Kentucky to get that. Now, shad, skipjack, I can get a bunch of, but not suckers. Suckers are like the best.
And the thing up here, I've seen it many times. Folks bring shad with them. They want no part of it because they don't live here.
Right. It's the same way as using chicken. You do not use chicken for catfish because there's no damn live chickens in the water.
Okay, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
There's no night crawlers in lakes either yet. Here we are.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you.
Well, there is night crawlers in lakes. They crawl out of the soil and accidentally go in the water, or the lake lifts up, floods the land. The night crawlers come out and they float away.
Yeah. And never-ending hour. So I'll leave you with this, I guess, because you guys want to get wrapped up. And I ask this just about every day. I have my line down over there with a piece of meat on it. Why would a fish choose that when there's all this water?
Oh my God.
Well,
you ponder that for a while.
I've been hearing for 6 months, we got to get up to see Brad. We got to go fishing with Brad. We got to go fishing with Brad. It's the best. He's the best. It's the best. So I'm looking forward to planning a trip with however many people we're going to try to get up there. It sounds like it's going to be a blast, and I can't wait to do it.
Well, you're nice and close.
Yes, for me, it's just bet I could throw a football all the way over to you. Not quite, but maybe Uncle Rico can.
4 hours, almost exactly.
Yep.
That's unfair. I'd be over there fishing every other weekend if that was me.
Well, he's got the Minnesota River 45 minutes from him.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's true. And that's where I've spent
Croix,
my
hour?
catfishing time. That
St.
I can
Croix's
get
hour?
to Yeah, I can get to the Minnesota River with some giant blue or flatheads in 40 to 45 minutes ish.
All right, so I'm coming up this spring, and we're going to go flathead fishing.
Stillwater's what, about an hour from you?
What's that?
Stillwater's about an hour from you. Some of the best sturgeon fishing around.
Yeah. Wow. And there's a lot of guys from Twitch even that do ice fishing for sturgeon over there.
Crazy.
And it's I want to get out and do some
77 incher on St. Croix twice in the last 2 weeks.
That's crazy. That's awesome.
So you have a lot of opportunities there. You just got to want them.
And find the time to do them. Yes. It's a little bit of everything.
I get it. I understand.
Yeah.
All right. Well, again, Brad, thanks for coming on last minute. Definitely appreciate it. And you're good, Eric. You don't have any more.
Just make sure you give Brad a call there. We've got his link up here. Check him out. If you guys want to have fun, I'm telling you, you need to go up and see him. I wouldn't bullshit you here one bit. I mean, it is awesome.
I've gotten 3 messages from people since we started saying, I need to do this. Look at those fish. I need to do this with this guy. So hopefully we get some business for you. And not that you probably need it. It sounds like you're already kind of.
Always need new people, but as of right now, we're booking for. I want to say we're booking for May 15th and beyond, until we know what the flood situation is going to be.
That makes sense.
Here in just 2 seconds.
We can wait 2 seconds. We can even wait probably 5 or 6.
Yes. Right now, I would say May 20th and on is what I'm looking at.
Right.
To be safe until I know what the flooding situation is going to be, or lack thereof.
Right.
I have been taking some locals who don't have to travel earlier and then booking a date later down the way for them just in case we can't go. But nothing sucks more than booking a trip and then I have to cancel you because we're not ready.
Oh, for sure. What about weather?
As far as what?
If I show up and the weather's shitty,
make sure
lightning and tornadoes is the only thing that shuts me down.
That's what I like to hear. That's what I like to hear.
Put your frog suit on, buddy, because
me and Eric got to sit through a tornado warning, and we didn't know it on the first day.
We did. It was raining. We had our frog outfits on. Yep.
It was analog phones, and they made us shut them off because it messed with the microphones on the cameras.
Oh, yeah.
So we knew this storm was coming. We wrapped everything up and hunkered down and rode it out. And then as soon as it stopped, we started our phones up, and mine was just ding, ding, ding. There's a tornado. Get the hell off the river. Get off the river. Are you dead? We had no idea. It was just a horrible storm for a few minutes and wind. And
yeah, that happens. It definitely happens.
I've had to have two tornado delays now.
Yeah.
Where nothing happened, but they were on the ground in the vicinity.
Right.
And I will tell you this, I'm sorry in advance, if we ever have to wait for a tornado, I'm giving you your deposit back and you're going home. I have never seen a storm system mess up fish worse than a tornado in the area.
Right. Yep.
It's just an absolute disaster and a waste of everyone's time.
I would agree.
But it's happened twice, and it thankfully only lasts a few hours, but
right.
Brad, we hope to have you back on too.
Yeah, let me know. I'm usually available in the winter months. In the summer months, not so much, but in the winter months.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And everybody, don't forget, this will be put on YouTube at Cast and Camo TV. Please go over onto YouTube and give us a subscribe, like, and comment, and talk about how awesome we are. Apparently, I'm not supposed to or allowed to make those comments myself. I thought I was just doing the hype, right? I was just our own hype man, but apparently you're not supposed to. I'm joking. That Buzzard was giving me shit for commenting on our own videos. But then don't forget, Cast and Camo. Use that code for 15% off Texas Select Seasoning and Carolina Bass Co. definitely use those codes. For the record, I just ate some ribs on the Thanksgiving day that were seasoned by Texas Select Seasoning, and they were absolutely delicious. And here's what I'm going to say, because my dad made them, and I gave him a bunch of the rub from that Bill gave us, and he made them with it. And my dad makes awful ribs. They're terrible. And these were like, holy cow, this was good. I'm putting it all on the Texas Select Seasoning. The seasoning has been great. I've gotten a lot of good feedback from the people I've given a little bit of a dash to try it on some things. So definitely check out Texas Select Seasoning. And again, Cast and Camo, use code Cast and Camo for 15% off your order. And yeah, YouTube, and check us out. We're slowly getting onto other platforms like SoundCloud and iTunes and Spotify. Just working through some glitches on some of that stuff, but we'll be on those platforms hopefully soon. Otherwise, we will talk to everybody next week. What do we don't know what we have next week. We were trying to get Bill to come on next week, and it doesn't sound like that's going to work out. He's got his mom's birthday. Apparently that's more important than talking about smoking meats. I don't know. I guess we'll let it slide. But over the next few weeks, we do have some really cool guests on I'm losing track of days, but we've got Bob St. Pierre coming up. We've got what I'm looking forward to on the 17th is Jim Bortz. Not that I'm not looking forward to Bob St. Pierre. I think that's going to be a lot of a fun night. So we'll see everybody next Sunday night at 7:00.
Good night, everyone.